Welcome to ThinkFreight's newest podcast, episode 1. Today we're talking with Norman Zhao. He's the founder of HaulHero, and he's going to be walking us through a little bit about HaulHero, how it got started, and kind of what they are and how they're changing the TMS space. Norman, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
No, absolutely. I love what you guys are doing. I've been following you guys for a little while now, and love the journey and love to share a little bit about what you guys are and what you guys are doing in the space.
Yep, appreciate it.
So tell me about HaulHero. How did it get started? What are you guys doing in the TMS space?
Yeah, so HaulHero started let's go back a little bit. I started at Carrier, which they make reefers for freight trucks.
Okay,
and and that was kind of my intro to the freight industry. After I left Carrier, I still had some friends in the freight industry, and we got to talking, and I noticed that they had a lot of problems that could be solved by automation. And I guess like my forte is kind of automation. So I started HaulHero as kind of like a way to like help them and help other freight, both carriers and brokers in the freight industry to just really make their jobs easier.
No, that's really fantastic. That's kind of why you and I have talked a few times, and that's kind of one of the reasons why you and I wanted to kind of do this kind of forum and podcast, to be able to kind of get out why you and I are both doing what we're doing. And it's kind of like what you said is being accessible and helping everyone. And that's kind of why I started ThinkFreight as well, to be able to not just help the big operators in the space, but the smaller startup brokerages, the mom and pop shops that have been around for 3 to 5 years, 10 years, but don't have as much of that, expertise in terms of being able to go out and look for all of this information and all of this data, because there's a lot out there, right? So, and that's kind of what you guys have done too, is you've taken all of the different areas to where you would have to have 5 or 6, 7 different tabs open to be able to do your job. And you've kind of condensed that into just being able to have HaulHero open. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the biggest, that's actually like one of our flagship products too, which is the carrier lookup. Like you said, like this data exists, but it's everywhere, right? It's coming from 4 or 5 different sources, the government, right? FMCSA. There's also like different departments in the FMCSA. So what we really wanted to do was we wanted to aggregate it and put it in a very accessible place for everybody to look it up and just look at it and understand like where this carrier is operating, what this broker is doing, all these things to just really make a good decision, make a good business decision on how to operate and how to proceed.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned this carrier lookup tool. Now, I know what it is, and you know what it is, obviously, but why don't you tell everyone at home kind of what your carrier lookup tool is, and how brokers can utilize that tool?
Yeah, for sure. So what the start off was for a lead generation tool for brokers to find new carriers to utilize. Mm-hmm. So they can either look up their name, their DOT number, docket number, keywords, or if they saved it to a custom list, or even a VIN number if the carrier has a vehicle that's registered. On top of that, they could also look through active regions, or like what regions this specific carrier has operated in via their inspections, their crashes, or their violations. You could also look it up for authority. So common contract broker, their authority status, their authority maintained for, so their authority age, what kind of BIPD coverage they have, if they have active cargo or active bond insurance, or even their vehicle types by GVWR, which is gross vehicle weight rating, or trailer types and fleet size. So that's really where it started. But where it's going kind of now is we really want to combat double brokering. And we've kind of pivoted a little from the carrier lookup tool as a lead generation tool to also a tool to fight against double brokering.
No, that's really interesting. Now, to touch on your point about double brokering, it's such a massive topic in today's industry, with freight fraud really exploding. Really since it's always been. I was a freight broker for a long time, and it's always been a problem. But it seemed like around the pandemic, or once we kind of got into the full swing of high rates and a lot of volume in the market, it seems like that's when a lot of freight fraud really exploded, because there was so many opportunities for these bad agents to really come in and take advantage of these carriers and exploit the system. Because as you know, Norman, working in freight as long as you have, just with starting here and having all your friends in the industry, that this industry is very fragmented and it's very behind other industries, which it's kind of shocking when you tell people who aren't in the industry how weird and how fragmented the supply chains are. Because a lot of people, and including myself, before I got into logistics and supply chain, I just kind of expected things to show up on the shelf. I didn't really know how they got there. I just expected things to be there when I went to the grocery store. And I think a lot of people have that kind of expectation. They don't really think, this is how my products got to the store or how they got there. And just to go back to our original point of double brokering, is with all of these bad agents, constantly coming in, you have to have the right segments and right tools to be able to combat that. Now, with your carrier search tool, can I give you an MC number? Can you look this up for us?
All right, so we pulled up this MC number 1537717, which is an example of a bad actor MC, and this is kind of like our bigger feature right now, which is the double broker scorecard, where we aggregate different criteria, because every brokerage they consider a double broker using different requirements, right? So
Yeah.
we kind of aggregated 10 of the most commonly ones that they use, and we put it into like a scorecard so it's easy for everybody to look at. So we have details regarding their authorities, so how long they've had it and if they actually have it, their insurance, their BIPD cargo insurance, their email domain, if it's from a common domain or if it's from a private domain. So what this means is if they're using Gmail to do business, or if they have their own domain, like their own website, and they're doing business from that. If they have any recent inspections, if they have a safety rating, and if they have a shared address with other brokerages or other entities in FMCSA database. And then also what kind of vehicles they have, and if there's also any shared VIN numbers between this entity and another FMCSA entity.
Now that's interesting. Now, how often is your data sets and your information updating?
Some of our data from our data sets is updated per day. There's
Mhm.
other data from FMCSA that they really only update per month,
Yeah.
but we get all the up to date data. So whenever they update it, we pull it immediately.
Perfect. Basically as soon as everyone is updated, whether that's a daily update with some of your providers, or whether that's with the FMCSA, who's typically right around that 1 month update time frame, you guys have that data pretty much updated immediately within
Yeah,
HaulHero,
this
right?
is as up to date as you could get from other sources. It's just the difference is this is all in one place, so you can
Yeah.
just look at it immediately and just know.
No, and that's perfect, because kind of like what we were touching on earlier with double brokers, is having all of this info in one place and being able to say, okay, like they don't have any inspections, there's no safety rating that's been assigned. Obviously, they've got shared addresses with other MCs. Not necessarily the most uncommon thing in the world. There are virtual offices, although that is a very touchy subject in this world right now, but not something we'll touch on today. But like you said, having all of this in one place and being able to see, is their authority actually active? Has it been, has it aged? Has it aged well? Is it actually, is it 3 months old, or is it actually something that's 2, 3, 5 years old, so that kind of who you're working with? An email domain, kind of like what you touched on, is just making sure that those brokers are actually utilizing real email addresses instead of these Gmail, Yahoo, and Hotmail email addresses, because those are pretty much guaranteed. Those are pretty much guaranteed double brokers. You're not going to find real legitimate brokers not utilizing their own custom domain to help themselves stand out. But number two, I mean, a shipper is realistically not going to give a broker a load with a Gmail address. They might give carriers that have a Gmail address, because they have those relationships built up with some of these carriers. They've met them, they've seen them in person. But when you're dealing on a broker shipper relationship, and even to the carriers out there who may be listening, when you're talking to these brokers, if they don't have a legitimate email custom domain, and make sure that those domains actually match the real website, because we have seen an explosion of bad actors going after big companies, like Total Quality Logistics, and trying to throw people off of, that scent by having, totalqualitylog.com or .net. And that does trip some carriers up. So just having, to make sure that everyone can see everything in one place, I think that really, really helps and really, really differentiates what you guys are doing from really any other TMS out there.
Exactly. It's well for the fight against double brokering, it's kind of reactionary because they're always
Yeah.
going to be one step ahead. So the best we could do is just stay exactly one step behind. Like we're not going to beat them ahead of whatever they're going to do. So
Yeah.
the most we could do, the best we could do is just to stay right behind them and just as soon as they do it, then we start fighting against exactly that and just hope that, they like even if they scam one person, they don't scam another one.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to help minimize the damage because we know that there's always going to be those bad actors. There always have been, there always will be, but eliminating them or having that data, readily available to everyone as soon as possible is kind of the name of the game.
Yep.
Kind of wrapping up on our podcast or on our quick segment here. What are some of the tools that we can expect to see from HaulHero in the future, whether that's on the short scale, 1 month to 3 month, or even some of the longer term stuff. You may not be able to share some of the longer term stuff. I understand, but anything that's up in the pipeline coming up real soon that that brokers can expect from you guys.
Yeah, of course. So we're working on a browser extension to really make the double broker scorecard and just carrier lookup as a whole into a very accessible uh, software package for everybody to just download on their browser and just immediately look it up without having
That's
to
awesome.
navigate to our page. That's the first thing. We're also working on a route optimizer for both brokers and carriers to queue up different loads and just find the best route and get the most money out of it, save the most gas, drive the least deadhead, all the good stuff.
No, that's really fantastic. I'm looking forward to that Chrome extension because I'm hopping in and out of Hall Hero all the time, trying to look up some of these bad actors and trying to see, when carriers reach out and they're like, hey, what are your opinions on this? I'll look them up on FMCSA as well, but just being able to have one source of truth and have everything where I can just at a glance look at something, and if I have to dive deeper, I can do that. But this really gives me that really initial information to be able to say, hey, this is a good one, or this is a bad one, or hey, I may need to dive into this a little bit deeper. So I think that browser extension is going to be really, really handy, and I think you guys are going to see a lot of people utilizing that going forward.
Yep. That's what we're in the business of, we just want to help people. So that's
No,
good to hear.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, one last thing before we let you go, Norman. Where can people find Hall Hero? What's the domain? What's the website? And what's the initial cost to get started on your platform?
Yeah, so our domain is gohaulhero.com and the initial cost is free for the most part. We allow
Wow.
most people to use, like there's a very generous free monthly tier and then everything past that is like $5. We're relatively cheap compared to like everybody else. We just want to help people, man.
Wow. So you're telling me that a broker can go out there after watching this podcast, go haulhero.com, and they can sign up for free and start utilizing these tools that you and I have been looking at, no cost to them?
Yep. And
Wow.
I could hook you with some discount codes too. So for all your
Perfect.
listeners, yeah, they could
No,
get
I
a,
appreciate that.
yeah, no problem, man.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, we've been chatting today with Norman Zhao. He's the founder of Hall Hero. They're an awesome revolutionary TMS with their double broker scorecard. And like you said, they've got some really cool things in the pipeline. If you guys haven't checked them out already, you can get started for free at gohaulhero.com. Make sure you guys check them out. And we look forward to talking with Norman again in the future.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Norman. Have a good one.
You too.